Okay, so I cleaned my computer. I didn't want to clean it, but I wanted to add a hard drive, and I sort of ended up cleaning it because I had to take it out because I had to take the graphics card out. So, yeah. So my email client wasn't working. I don't know why it's not working. Why is it not working? So I had to go to my email on my web browser. Should do my mail. Anyway, so there's this article. I'm going to talk about mutual obligation. I've read this article. I read the article. It is called Life on the Bread Line. So it's by this person. She is Nijol, now Jo Cost. She's 34 years old and lives in Adelaide. And she wrote this article. Centrelink's mutual obligation is a system of humiliation. See, I'm not the only one who feels this way. You might think it's easy to jump through hoops, but the hoops keep growing and moving around, and you can still lose your payments. It's good. I try very hard to hold on to my self-worth in my appointments. Many times I don't succeed. This is a turning point. So you got 169.03 a week after housing costs. Alright. Oh, how I have struggled with this article. How do I convey my deep gratitude to you all for listening to my experiences? How do I push past my melancholy that this will be my last article for Life on the Breadline? And most pressing, how do I convey my thoughts coherently on this topic I feel most passionately about? Mutual obligation. Mutual obligation. The phrase conjures up cozy scenes of neighbors putting your bin out and you watering their plants while they are on holidays. It speaks of you walking their dog and them baking you some biscuits in return, a quid pro quo that is fairly equal and expected. It seems reasonable, doesn't it? Something benign and harmless, and the government uses this term to describe the activities and reporting requirements you must engage in to get Social Security payments. It's only fair to do something when you are on the dole, right? We all need to do our bit and not be a drain. It's a responsibility. It should be expected, right? You might have a slight inkling that I vehemently disagree. You know, just I just want to go to I just want to go to this. I just want to read this article written by the government just to show you how sadistic they are. This is like a. Let's get of when was it? Okay, let's read this, okay? This is a This is on the Parliament of Australia Budget Review 2017-18, written by one Matthew Thomas. Job seeker compliance and workforce participation. New job seeker compliance framework. The government has for some time been dissatisfied with the current job seeker compliance system, and in particular the system of connection and reconnection failures. So you would think, okay, they are dissatisfied. Why are they dissatisfied? Isn't it like helping job seekers, or what's wrong? Where a job seeker fails without reasonable excuse to attend any appointment with their employment services provider, this constitutes a connection failure. Currently, a connection failure does not result in an immediate financial penalty. So if they don't show up to the appointment, the problem they are dissatisfied is because currently a connection failure does not result in an immediate financial penalty. Instead, the job seeker's payment is suspended. Once the job seeker contacts or is contacted by Centrelink and agrees to attend a further appointment, their payment is restored from the date that it was suspended. That is, they are fully back paid. If the job seeker does not agree to attend the further appointment, it is booked regardless and their payment remains suspended. If the job seeker fails to attend the further appointment without a reasonable excuse, this results in a reconnection failure and the suspension of their payment until they comply with the reconnection requirement. During a reconnection failure period, a person accrues a penalty equivalent to their daily rate of payment for each day of look at this. During a reconnection failure, this is the current system. This is not like what they want. This is the current system. During a reconnection failure period, that means like after you don't show up for your booked appointment. So first you don't show up for your appointment. Okay, that's called a connection failure. And then they will book another appointment for you. And if you don't show up for the other appointment, that's called a reconnection failure. And this is what they say. During a reconnection failure period, a person accrues a penalty equivalent to their daily rate of payment for each day of the reconnection failure period. That is, they are not back paid upon meeting their requirement. Okay, so that's for the reconnection. Look at this. This is what the government wants. As the government sees it, the above arrangements provide insufficient incentive for job seekers to comply with their mutual obligation requirements. It maintains that a small number of job seekers are repeatedly missing their appointments but agreeing to attend a rescheduled appointment and thereby avoiding any financial penalties. The government's preference is for immediate penalties to apply to job seekers who fail to attend appointments without having a reasonable excuse. And let's go on. The government has also argued that the current arrangement under which job seekers are able to have their 8-week income support non-payment period, let's read that again, 8-week income support non-payment period, that means you don't get any payment for 2 months. Why? There you go. For failing to accept or commence a suitable job without good reason. So if you don't take the job, it doesn't matter what job it is, if you don't get, they call it a suitable job, if you don't take the job, you're going to get your payments cut for 2 months without good reason, waived through participating in a compliance activity. So what they're saying is the current arrangement, under the current arrangement, the 8-week suspension. So under the current arrangement, if you refuse a job, the 8-week suspension can be waived through participating in a compliance activity. Means that there is an insufficient deterrent to refusing work. So what they were saying is basically the penalty of 8 week suspension is not harsh enough to deter people from refusing work. So they want actually something more harsher than that. The government has previously sought to deal with the above perceived failings through measures contained in 3 different bills. These aimed to apply more immediate penalties and stop 8-week non-payment penalties for failures to accept and offer suitable employment from being waived. So this is what they want. They want to put immediate what they're saying is they want, if you miss an appointment, you get a financial penalty from the date that you miss your appointment. They're not going to wait for your second appointment. They're going to cut your payment from the moment you miss it. And if you refuse job, you're going to get an automatic 8-week suspension of your payment. You're not going to you see how what they're doing here? They're basically trying to tell people you cannot be on Social Security. You can't. You have to work. The other alternative is to deal with this system. I wonder how people will feel if actually because none of the public knows about what is going on here. Okay, let's go back to the other one. Here you go. I cannot tell you the number of times I've spoken to people, good, well-meaning people who have no idea what mutual obligation actually means in terms of Centrelink. It is not cozy or equal or reasonable. The term mutual obligation is very deliberately used by the government to cover a multitude of sins and indignities that are inflicted upon Centrelink recipients such as myself. Essentially, it's the hoops you must keep jumping through to not be cut off your payment, reporting your income, applying for jobs, and dealing with all the activities your job, network, or disability employment service demands of you. You might think, just do as you're asked. How hard can it be? The problem is that this list of things, this series of hoops, just keeps on growing and moving around. You jump and it's moved at the last minute. You can fulfill all your requirements and still be cut off your payments. Anyway, can you understand how what an evil system this is? Can you understand what? No, I'm not taking any. What is your question? Someone wants to say. Someone has a question. You have to state your question. So she's talking about, I can honestly say some of the worst experience I've ever had regarding Centrelink have been with DES providers, and I'm currently in the DES providers. These are not specially trained workers as you may think, educated in health issues or social barriers, and empathetic and eager to support. Most of the time I have had case workers with far less education than me, with little life experience and no clue as to the reality of my medical conditions. I try very hard to hold on to my self-worth in these appointments. Many times I don't succeed, but I must attend or risk having my payments suspended. Okay, what happened here is pretty messed up. I am forced to repeat my history over and over again to multiple caseworkers, even though my notes are in my file. I had one DES worker press me for specific intimate details of one medical condition I have. I replied that I was not comfortable with revealing that, and wasn't it enough that he knew what my condition was. He would not let it go, arguing that he, quote, needed to know for my benefit, despite him having no legal right to those details. He kept pushing and interrogating me to the point where I blurted out, holding back tears. It is a special kind of shame when you realize how powerless you are in a room where the other person can remove your only source of money. Telling people to do training is a whole other kettle of fish. Earning or learning was a favorite phrase of the previous minister, Joe Hockey. But there comes a point when learning things you are already capable of becomes insulting and demoralizing. I think you have to check my videos. And I'm not talking about that. I have videos on my channel which talk about that. I recently went with a friend who is JobNet. What the fuck? What is going on here? What is this? Why is my computer making that noise? I'm so fucking tired of everything. Is it stupid graphics card? Yeah, it is a graphics card. Oh, it must be that stupid thing. Stupid thing. I hate this. I hate this. Okay, so my graphics card makes that stupid noise. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna answer these questions. So, anyway, man, this is so... Look, job networks gain extra government payments for outcomes like placing job seekers in training. There is a perverse financial incentive to enroll their clients into any course, no matter how pointless or inappropriate it is for the job seeker. My friend found out later that every time they put a client into the resume course, the company got $300 from the government for this outcome. Not one of the courses he was forced into led him to gaining employment. This is what, look at how it's happening. Everything is just a bureaucratic bullshit. Just tick the boxes. Just tick the boxes and do your nonsense. And the system we are forced to use is not a mutual obligation, but a system of relentless bowing and humiliation, being forced into pointless busy work like unrecognized courses to feed this government's insatiable need to make the unemployed do something, feeding the idea that us lazy slobs, as they like to paint us, need beating into submission. And all this mutual obligation is overseen by job networks and these providers who profit off punishing us for the tiniest infractions. They profit from bullying their clients and using taxpayer money to fund these activities, all in the name of making us leaners. Remember our place. Look at this bullshit. Now, can you understand why I'm so like, I can't. This is evil, man. What they're doing is evil. What they're doing is evil. You know why? You know how they say here, small number of job seekers are repeatedly missing their appointments. You know, that's like most people are compliant, but there will always be some people who will, the government's coercive and punitive regime of mutual obligations is targeted on people who are the most poor. It's basically punishing poor people, people with mental illnesses, outsiders, outcasts. This is what it's doing. This program is basically punishing them. It's like beating them down and hoping that they will get in line or something. Personal responsibility phase. Let's read that again. Personal responsibility phase. What is this bullshit? Where a job seeker fails to accept an offer of suitable work, they will have their payment cancelled for 4 weeks, irrespective of which phase they're in. Imagine that, right? If this is not forced labor, I don't know what is not forced labor. So if you don't take a job, right, you're gonna be punished. This is forced labor. So they think they'll save $204.7 million. The savings are a result of the application of additional penalties rather than administrative savings. Look at this. penalizing job seekers who know what their requirements are but are, for whatever reason, and despite any support provided, incapable of meeting them. You mean they don't want, you mean they're defiant and they're rebelling you? You don't get it? You don't get it that people are actually being defiant? There you go. The proposal to impose an immediate penalty on job seekers who refuse a suitable job offer has been strongly criticized by Labour, the Greens, and welfare groups in the past on two main grounds. Firstly, it has been argued that removing Labour's job seekers has the ability where it could result in the country becoming disengaged. Second, it argues that the penalty is likely to result from this measure would require amending legislation. What do you mean by that? Oh. Look at this bullshit. I really can't. Anyway, I actually wrote an email to the government department, but it was like rejected. Right. Um, the system we have focused on yours. Okay, I'm just gonna cut out this. How do I cut off this stupid chat? Alright, there you go. No more chat. Anyway, why are people bugging me? I'm not interested in chatting. Holy shit, that was my... Oh, wait a minute, that's my... Okay, let me just read my letter anyway. So this is a Senate Estimates Committee or something. Let me read, which one is it? EEC.SCN. Senate. I sent an email to the Senate Standing Committees on Education and Employment. Anyway, I don't feel like reading it right now, but because I'm so anyway, I'll end my stream. Mutual obligations is evil. It is evil. And what the government is doing to unemployed people is just bullying. It's evil. It's basically just. I don't know. I feel like it's almost like they get some. It's like a BDSM thing where it's like a sadism. They're like being sadistic on the unemployed people. It's like they get some satisfaction out of humiliating and controlling and beating people who are already outsiders, the poor and the mentally ill and those out of work and mature-aged people, maybe even quite a few women in there as well, immigrants and all of these people. The government is just basically trying to beat them into submission or something. And it's evil. It's just evil. It's evil. Yep.